Hello everyone, welcome to LinkedIn Live. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to see where the numbers get up to, if that's all right. So if you just bear with us for a minute or two. Hello everyone, welcome to LinkedIn Live. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to see. Okay, for those just joining, I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to wait for a few more people to jump in, and then we'll get live. So we're talking about some of the activity Regeneration Brainery are doing at UKREiiF. For those that know Regen Brainery, and those that don't, we'll find out a fair bit more about them. So just going to wait a couple more minutes, and then I will invite in the team at Regen. Okay. Right, so it looks like people are starting to join. So I will kick off, and if anyone kind of misses any, they'll obviously be able to go back to the beginning and re-watch. So huge thank you for joining us today. So we're doing a bit of a series of these just to bring in some of those who are running content at UKREiiF, for them to highlight what they're doing, who they are, how to get involved with their program, seeing what they want to achieve from the event, and hopefully bring forward some collaboration between partners and those attending. So today's is going to be focused on Regeneration Brainery, great organisation. I followed them for many a year, and this year they are going much bigger and much better. There's no point in me going into too much detail. What I'll do is bring in Michele Steele, who's part of the team, the chief exec at Regeneration Brainery. She's going to share some details of what they're doing, and then I'll jump back in the end and ask some questions. So if you have got any questions, put them in the live chat, and we will ask away. But my colleague Tom, if you don't mind bringing Michele in, share the slides, and I will leave it with you, Michele.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nathan. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. Regeneration Brainery has been to UKREiiF for the last 2 years, with probably the best part of 100 young people as part of our program. So we work with young people, trying to encourage them to enter careers in property and regeneration, people from underrepresented backgrounds, so typically lower socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnic minority groups, and basically giving them an amazing chance to come to UKREiiF and network with literally thousands of young people. So we've been for the last 2 years. This year we are UKREiiF's official charity partner, as you can see, which is incredible. So thanks to UKREiiF for inviting us to have that position. It's a tremendous honour. Our activity so far, excuse me, at UKREiiF, as I say, we've brought the best part of 100 young people, typically across the Pennines from Manchester, over to Leeds for the conference. And it's a brilliant opportunity for them to expand their network, to communicate with leading players in the industry, but also importantly to have a voice in the conversation. So the picture there on the screen is of 2 of our brilliant ambassadors who spoke in the EDI Pavilion last year, which anyone who was there will remember. It was a standing room only event. There was a queue of people waiting out the door who couldn't get in to hear from our young people about, I suppose, the challenges and the issues that they'd faced trying to enter the industry. And for some of them who were in early careers in industry, and what they found since being there. So we've got a really strong affiliation with UKREiiF, but this year, as Nathan says, we're going bigger and better by being the charity partner. So I wanted to just set out, I guess, the events, the set piece events that we've got going on in the Regeneration Brainery Studio space, which I'll come on to at the end of my slides in terms of where that is. But we've got our own dedicated space at UKREiiF, and we've curated content within that space across all 3 days of the conference, working with our partners basically to talk about all things inclusion and diversity. So really the two key themes, either making our places and spaces more inclusive or making the industry more inclusive and more diverse. I'll not talk in too much detail about these, but because they're all going to be brilliant, I'm going to touch on all of them really briefly. So on the Tuesday, first day of the conference, the first event we've got is with Lloyds Bank. We've got the MD of Real Estate and Housing at Lloyds Bank talking on a panel with the head of Regeneration at Metropolitan Thames Valley Housing Association. They've obviously got huge projects going on down in London. We've got Vivian King from the Good Economy, and also Lewis James, who is one of the Regeneration Brainery ambassadors. Lewis grew up in social housing. He's going to talk about his personal experiences as a young person growing up, and how important it is to have strong, stable, secure accommodation, and what that can mean for I guess, personal life chances. And that's, I suppose, one of the real, benefits of Regeneration Brainery being at UKREiiF is bringing that kind of personal lived experience perspective into the conference and hearing from young people and the things that they've experienced. So that first session is going to be great. Following that, we've got a symposium workshop which Socius developers are hosting. It's really about how we empower young people to be part of our placemaking processes, so engaging them in our processes of regeneration, but also how we equip them with the skills to enter the industry. So they're bringing with them partners from Aviva, Social Value UK, Meeting Place, Bidwell's, a number of others who are going to kind of host interactive discussion tables. And Socius are looking to develop a paper on the back of this that then is, I suppose, like a call to action for the industry. So if anyone wants to get involved in that, it's predominantly by invite only, and I think Socius have got invites out at the moment, but there will be an opportunity to sort of drop in on the day. So do come along. I can't guarantee a place, but I suspect if you're there on time or a little bit early, you should get in and get involved. And then in the afternoon on the Tuesday, we've got Ryder Levitt Bucknell, who are talking about inclusivity and how important it is for organisations to foster a culture of inclusion. So they are going to be joined, RLB are bringing quite a big contingent of their next gen workforce. So some of those early careers professionals are going to be talking on that panel alongside Amos Simbo, who's the founder and CEO of Black Professionals in Construction. So I think that's going to be a really brilliant discussion about how important it is to foster that, that culture of inclusion and allowing people to bring their kind of full selves to the workplace. Day two is a pretty full agenda. So we start off with Octopus Real Estate, talking about care homes, their business. They operate a huge number of care homes across the UK. Their head of care homes in the UK, Mike Toft, is going to be talking alongside one of their registered nurse practitioners who works within Octopus as an advisor, as a clinical assurance practitioner, really looking at what that end user needs, and particularly those who are living with dementia, and having those particular needs catered for in the design, the whole kind of user experience, basically. So I think that's going to be really, really insightful and interesting to hear from those guys. Then we've got BDP talking about accessible routes into the industry. This one's going to be chaired by Marsha Ramroop, who's the founder of Unheard Voice. She's a former BBC journalist. She was the director of inclusion at REBA. She's got some great perspectives. Particularly, this panel discussion is going to be around, I guess, the importance of apprenticeships in particular. And there are some aspects of the industry, architecture being one of them, that really still seems to be struggling with getting the degree level apprenticeships off the ground. So that panel is going to be exploring those issues and seeing if collaboratively we can kind of come to a bit of a solution towards that particular challenge. And then in the afternoon, or over lunchtime rather, Avis and Young are hosting a bit of a kind of a two-header. It's almost like the new skills and the old skills for encouraging new entrants into the industry. So the importance of networks first up, and where they've got Sadie Morgan, who, if anyone knows Sadie, she's an incredible speaker, founder of DRMM Architects. fantastic advocate for inclusivity in the built environment. Sadie's going to be talking again with one of our Brainery ambassadors about the importance of networks, and it's fundamentally one of the things that we as Regeneration Brainery exist to do, to kind of create those networking opportunities for young people who otherwise wouldn't have access to the industry. And then the second part of the Avison Young experience, if you like, is going to be talking about tech. So we've got the MD of the UK Prop Tech Association joining that panel, the head of digital planning at the City of London, and then an amazing Regeneration Brainery ambassador called Leila Haloum. And Leila is a digital change maker. She's only 18, but she is an absolute force of nature. She's won the Diana Award, the Harvard Society Prize. She's been shortlisted for all kinds of other awards. She's doing like incredible things. She's going to go really far. So if nothing else, it's worth dropping into that session to hear from Leila. She is really she's really quite inspirational. And then last session of the day on the Wednesday is with UKREiiF, another workshop around stakeholder engagement, but this time broadening out from, I guess, a youth perspective into all hard to reach groups. So whether that's the elderly, families with young children, those where English perhaps isn't their first language, how do we better engage with those groups? And does technology help, and how can it help? Or perhaps sometimes is technology actually a hindrance if we're trying to get representative views from all sectors of society? So again, if anyone wants to kind of guarantee a place in part of that discussion, there is an email address which UKREiiF have set up, but if you want to contact me through LinkedIn, then by all means do so. And then our last series of sessions of the week on the Thursday, we've got BDP in the morning talking about accessible transport. And it's a chance to hear firsthand from one of their colleagues, Kate Woodcock-Fowles, who is a wheelchair user. She also is a member of the National Centre for Accessible Travel. She'll be talking about her own personal lived experiences as a wheelchair user using the public transport system. And she's going to be speaking alongside Victoria Garcia, MBE, who was awarded that MBE for services to disabled transport. She works with Brighton and Hove bus services. And Stacey White, the head of mass transit at the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. So that's going to be a brilliant conversation about how do we do that better? What does good look like? And how can that change not just an individual's life, but actually just make things better for society generally with public transport system. And then the last session there is a Q&A which will be chaired, firing the cues will be Leila, who I mentioned earlier, to a member of Parliament, which is going to be interesting given the general election coming up later this year. So posing the questions from, I guess, a youth perspective. So final slide from me, there are a number of other events which I must mention because they're the Regeneration Brainery specific events. So on both of Tuesday and Thursday during UKREiiF in the afternoon at 2:30, we'll have all of our Braineys and Regeneration Brainery ambassadors who are coming to the conference with us in our studio space. It'll just be a chance to sort of network with them, come and kind of, I guess, share your experiences, but also get to meet some really talented, bright, young things. So do come along to that. We've got an invite-only event on the Wednesday, which is a reverse mentoring networking session, which is going to be absolutely brilliant, where I guess you guys, the industry, will be the mentees, and our young people will be the mentors. So a chance to sort of hear firsthand from young people, what their perspectives are on our industry. Again, if you're interested in, I suppose, joining the reserve list for that, drop me a line and I will do that. I'll add you to that. And then on the Wednesday at 5 o'clock in the Bury Theatre, we've got our sort of main Regeneration Brainery event, a bit like the one we held last year, panel of young people chaired by a young person, giving their kind of first-hand experiences of trying to enter this here industry, first-hand experiences of recruitment practices. We've got young people who are literally applying for roles as we speak. How they're finding those, what are the things that maybe could be done differently or better, but also where there've been good experiences, and we've got young people who are now in industry. So do come along to that, show your support, and hear those views from our young people. We are based at the Regeneration Brainery Studio. So you'll see on the map, we're in the Dockside Zone. So if you get to the Canary Bar, just basically carry on along the waterfront and you'll find us down there. The best thing to do actually is follow the pink. So we'll be branded up and we'll be mingling around our studio space. So just head for the pink and the good vibes, and that's where you'll find us. So yeah, do come along and check us out, and it'd be great to meet you all whilst we're there.
Thank you very much, Michele. I was going to ask, that was my first question, how to find you. So how many of you will there be running around with the pink hoodies and t-shirts on?
I think we're probably going to have between 40 and 50 young people between Braineys, which are essentially still the kind of school age, college age students, ambassadors who are in higher education or who are early careers professionals. So yeah, we're going to have a good number of those guys milling around. It's exam period, slightly unhelpfully, UKREiiF, so we do have different numbers coming on different days depending on when exams and things like dissertations land. But yeah.
Yes, the joys. I'm glad I'm not in that situation anymore of doing exams and revising and whatever else. So what I do love is the ambassadors. So they've kind of been through the boot camps and the journey, and then they're helping some of those from the younger side coming through, aren't they? Which I find, absolutely brilliant. So UKREiiF isn't the only event that you come to. So obviously I saw you at a MIPIN where you had, I think, 3 or 4 of the Braineys out, and there's a couple of others that you go to. So just give us a bit of an overview of why is it important for events like UKREiiF to be bringing these young people in, and for your end to bring them to the event. What do they get from it? What success stories is there?
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's 2 reasons it's important that we're at events like this. I mean, one, you know, no matter how much, and you guys are brilliant at trying to encourage a more diverse delegation at UKREiiF, but frankly, the industry as a whole is not that diverse. So no matter what your efforts are, as things currently stand, it's not going to be a fully diverse, in terms of representing society at large out there, it's not going to be fully representative. So, you know, we bring a youth voice, which is, I guess, a different characteristic to those older or more mature members of our industry. But, 2/3 of the students that we work with are from an ethnic minority background. So bringing those different perspectives into your conference and other conferences, I think is really beneficial, and having them participate in the conversation where, like I say, you're getting that kind of first-hand lived experience, their personal journeys, I think just helps, Gen Z in particular, very different, they've got very different perspectives. They've grown up with technology. They've grown up with like the existential threat of climate change hanging over them. There's social inequity issues. So they've got different perspectives to bring. And I think it's important that we allow them, a seat at the table and we hear those perspectives. On the flip side, for them, coming to something like UKREiiF, or MIPIM, where we had obviously a much smaller contingent because it's not as easy to get to the south of France. It's not quite as accessible. Is to give them that opportunity to network with industry players. Our role, our mission really as Regeneration Brainery is to inspire them in the first place to consider entering this industry, to let them know that it's a brilliant, creative, it can be part of like creating whole new communities, brilliant buildings, things that you can be really proud of and show like your kids, family, whoever it might be, but you can say like, I was part of that. Like that is an amazing thing to be able to do. So it's to first off inspire them, but then we've got to connect them to industry, because if you don't have friends and family who work in this industry, which, typically if you're from, a lower socioeconomic background, if you're from kind of the kind of standard state, comprehensive or college system, you're probably not going to have those connections. How do you get work experience? How do you meet people in the industry? Well, with us, we'll bring you to places like UKREiiF and you can meet people and you can create those connections. And, we have had, there's a very specific story about one of our students who came to UKREiiF first year, 2 years ago, practiced the skills that he'd learnt with us around communication, how to literally just how to talk to people in the industry and not feel overfaced by that, not feel too intimidated. And he had a conversation with a great organisation, a developer, and they created an apprenticeship for him on the back of having that meeting. So he actually got his apprenticeship directly through being at UKREiiF and just chatting, talking to people and explaining what he was interested in, and finding out more about them, and just creating that synergy and that connection. So that's the benefit that the students that we work with get by coming to UKREiiF with us is immense.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear. They're the bits that I struggle. We obviously monitor and measure social value from the event, and we can never calculate all of those little conversations, which then lead to things like apprenticeships or potential jobs in the future. So yeah, a bit of a finger in the air kind of figure for us to try to figure out. But it's good to hear that it's happening.
Yeah.
So obviously from your side, there's coming to events with these people, but actually you do so much over the course of a year. What I'm always impressed by when I speak to the Braineys and those coming through the program, they have so many different opportunities that they can go down. So it's not as if they're being pushed down their eye, well, this is the route for you in the industry. They're almost, even when they're at 22, 23, they're still thinking, well, actually, I could go into marketing because I really like that because I've experienced it. But then at the same time, I'm looking at surveying, and there's just so much that they're being shown. So could you just give us a bit of an idea of what does a typical kind of year look like for these people? So what are you doing within these boot camps and the activity away from just attending events like UKREiiF?
Yeah, sure. Look, I can do that with very recent experience. So this time last week, we were on Manchester Brainery Boot Camp Week. And we're not just Manchester. So we had that week last week in Manchester, but we are going to be in Stoke-on-Trent in June, in London in July, in Birmingham in September, in Liverpool October, and then back to Manchester in November. So we're spread across the country. But during that week, so last week we had 25, I suppose, newcomers. So these are typically 16, 17-year-olds studying at college, range of different subjects from traditional A levels through to kind of T levels that are more kind of built environment focused. During that week, we'll be in a different workplace environment each day. So we had a day based at Avison Young, and there was talk there about sort of careers in planning, surveying. We had architectural visualizers come in, and we had marketers and property journalists come in. So very broad range of, I suppose, disciplines, but all within the property industry. We had a day up in Wigan. We spent the day with Wigan Council. So Director of Place Aidan Thatcher there talked about working in a local authority. The amount of development activity up in Wigan is pretty significant now, and what they're up to and what those kind of careers look like. We looked around the town centre, spent some time with developers, Capital and Centric. We had a day with Bruntwood and Select Property Group at Circle Square in Manchester. So that's a multi-phase sort of long-term regeneration plan, but hearing from the architects who've been part of that project, from the engineers who've been part of it. So it was very much like a live case study. They went on site with GMI Construction to see what actually being involved in construction looks like. We had a day on Thursday with Landsec U&I at Mayfield in Manchester, and their kind of whole team. They've got a great internship program, but also just hearing from them about how you create a whole new place, new public park. So the students got to play in the park for a while, which was pretty good fun. And then on Friday, we were with Adelshaw Goddard, so moving, I suppose, into more talking about careers in the law, but within real estate. Tom Bloxham from Urban Splash came in and talked about what they do. And then in the afternoon, the students all kind of brought together everything they'd kind of heard during the week, the sort of things that they'd learned, and then they were given the chance to come up with their own development scheme for Mayfield. So they got the pens and papers out, the modelling clay, hands-on, and then they've got to present that to a sort of a panel of industry experts that we had from Lloyds Bank and Landsec. So it's a brilliant week, and you can see the difference, even from a Monday to a Friday, in the confidence of the students who are involved in the programme, the teamwork, so those kind of soft skills that they develop throughout the week, having to work collaboratively together, develop their presentation skills, all of that kind of stuff. It's an incredible journey to see. But then at the end of that week, the important bit for us is then carrying that on. So whether it is through coming to conferences like UKREiiF, but we'll have a series now throughout the year of networking events, informal kind of coffee mornings or social events where it's getting those students back in the room with industry people, just carrying on, developing those connections, but breaking down the barriers. Like I said, just having the conversation with sometimes very senior people in industry, but recognizing that they're just humans. We're all just humans. And if you can have a conversation, we're a very people-based industry, right? So if you can have a conversation with someone and not feel intimidated by their job title, then, that is going to stand you in much better stead in terms of your employability prospects than if you've just been kind of, I guess, desk-based. Schools and colleges often aren't great because they're very strapped resource-wise at developing those personal skills, and certainly they're not great at explaining about the breadth and the depth of careers that exist in property, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I left, I think I have no college university experience. I left kind of education at school, and I left school thinking that the industry was simply you could be a bricklayer and that was about it. So to hear that so much is going into it to show everything of the industry, because one part might not be of interest, but actually if you're looking at designing a new development or having input into something like a Mayfield, that it's just so inspiring because it touches on any and everything, and the creativity it can bring, particularly for young people, is brilliant. From a social value perspective, obviously amazing, and even for those that don't end up coming into the industry, and as you're saying, those soft skills that they're learning on the way, the confidence of what you're going to get from presenting back to people, and the conversation that you have over that week-long period are brilliant. So obviously there's a lot of organizations looking to tie in developments, projects they're doing with social value opportunities. So how do people work with you? What kind of partnerships do you strike up in terms of, there's some great clients there, Landsec, Capital and Centric, Select Property, some big hitters. So how do people get involved with Regeneration Brainery, both kind of holistically over the year, and how do they meet you on site to hear a bit more?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, that's a great chat. Come to the Regeneration Brainery Studio at UKREiiF and have a chat with me about what that looks like. We create formal partnerships with industry partners. So you'll see some of those on our website. If you have a look, www.regenerationbrainery.co.uk. It's such a mouthful. Or, the socials tag is running along the bottom there, which is slightly shorter and a little bit easier to type in. So LinkedIn is a good way to sort of check us out. But come and have a chat with me. The partnerships that we create with the industry are really important for us. We are a not-for-profit, hence our charitable partner status with you guys. So we do need to partner with organisations to support us financially as much as anything else. But fundamentally, the programme doesn't run without the industry inputs that I've mentioned. All of those, everything that we did last week is not me and the team from Regeneration Brainery standing up at the front and talking at young people about the kind of the things that you could be doing if you work in this industry. It is it's people from within the industry telling their own stories. So we need those inputs, and we've got to be creative in terms of the content that we produce for students, because we want to get across your point, Nathan, that no matter what you're interested in or what you're good at, there is a role for you somewhere in the property industry, because it is so broad. This isn't, as I say, like, this isn't the law, like where you kind of, there's different sort of branches of the law, but fundamentally you study like for a law degree. You could go off in hundreds of different directions. So we want as broad a range of inputs as possible to help us explain that to students. But increasingly, our partner pool is, it's grown pretty massively, certainly over the last 6 months, and increasingly it's our formal partners who are driving the agenda for those bootcamp weeks, because they want to, as you say, they want to be able to demonstrate that they are delivering social value, that working with us is directly impacting on young people's lives, which it is, and we can quantify that in terms of the numbers of students that we work with, the characteristics that they demonstrate. We've got social mobility criteria that we apply to our application process. So I would advocate everyone who's at UKREiiF should be a partner to Regeneration Brainery. I very firmly believe, because the industry is only going to change if we can get into that kind of grassroots level and encourage. There's no kind of lateral hiring, or the limited lateral hiring capabilities here. It's about bringing in people from the ground up, and like I say, the way that the education system is just structured, and it hasn't changed in like 30 years. What we do is not going to it doesn't get talked about in schools and colleges. So it's down to us to do it.
Yeah, no, totally. And I would advocate in terms of becoming a partner, speak to some of the Brainees. These are some of the most talented people I've met. The sort of the proactivity and confidence that they have at the age that they have. You can tell there's a lot of future leaders within the network, and they see the companies that work with you as potential employers. They're the ones that they're working with and having conversations with, and actually partnering with Regeneration Brainery certainly means that the talent pool that you've got to pick from, there's some really good people within that. You will kind of come across as one of the employers of choice. Just to tick off a couple of questions, there's a lot of kind of chat in the chat box, but a lot of it is just people saying, you do great work, we're connecting with you, Michele, etc. One of them is from Spencer, who I've had plenty of chats with around kind of designing places with inclusivity in mind. So he represents the deaf community, and I know on your agenda there's quite a lot that you've got around accessibility transport wise. You talk about design for dementia patients. Just on your question, Spencer, yes, we do have a sign language interpreter available. It's not on each stage because we have about 40 or 50 stages. Once you register through the event, you have an option of telling us if you require anything similar to that, and we will then make sure that there is somebody available all the way across the event if that's what you require. So yes, we do sort that if needed. Final question from my side, Michele, more of a wider perspective. What else are you looking forward to at the event? So fringe activity, actually the comedy night that you're involved in, isn't there, at raising money for? So just tell us on a wider perspective, is there anything that you're looking forward to at UKREiiF?
Yes. So that comedy night is, I think, on the, oh gosh, is it the Tuesday or the Wednesday?
It's the Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, yeah. So RLB are having a comedy night, and I can't remember the detail of where it is. But again, we're the charity partner to that. So I'm looking forward to that, letting my hair down after day one and getting a bit of a laugh, whilst also talking about the important matters of diversity in property and real estate, and just catching up with people across the network. I came for the first time last year to UKREiiF. I was sort of a bit out of the industry the year before for a number of reasons, but it's such a great place. You only walk you walk half a dozen steps and there's someone else that and someone else and someone else. So whilst I'm going to be relatively chained to the Regeneration Brainery Studio space, I'm hoping to get out there a little bit and see what other people are up to, and I haven't quite worked out my evening agendas yet, but hopefully some stuff to just what's the word? Switch off a little bit.
Yes, that's what I'm planning to do. I've not booked anything yet either, and then I was looking yesterday and things are starting to get sold out on the evening. So apart from this, the only one I am booked on for, there's a charity night on a Wednesday, which is raising money for Land Aid, which is an industry band doing a rock night.
Oh my God.
But it's a random mixture of people. So I saw Mark Robinson, who's the chair of the High Street Task Force, co-founder of Alandi, is on bass. You've got the Government Property Agency, the Ministry of Sound have got someone. I think their chair is on the guitar. So that's on my list to do. And I'm sure a few others. There's karaoke as well going on. So if anyone wants to avoid me singing, don't go there because I will be on the microphone. Happy days. Anything else to add from your end, Michele? Are we all one last kind of come meet us, come get involved with Regen?
Yeah, that is exactly it, Nathan. Check out our socials. It's a great way to find out what we're doing, how we do it, who we work with. We're pretty active on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, Twitter. If nothing else, give our socials a follow and check us out.
Happy days. Right, so yeah, everyone get along to Regeneration Brainery Studio during the week. Have a chat with them before, after, during, and thank you for listening. And there will be another of these, a number of them coming up with all of our pavilion partners, just to figure out what they're doing in their space and hear a bit more. So look out for those on our LinkedIn channels. All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.